Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Hello, Middlers. Welcome to episode 161. My name is Stephanie. I am the Medium in the Middle. And a few weeks ago on Instagram, I put up a question and answer bubble just asking the audience for things they want me to talk about on the podcast. I love to do this just to gauge where the audience is at, what you're thinking, what you want to hear about. And I'm always happy to answer questions. So that is where I got the soulmate question from last episode 160. Do you believe in soulmates? And today I'm going to answer a few other great questions that I received in that question box on Instagram. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, @mediuminthemiddle is my only account. There is a lot of scam accounts out there and I will never message you for a reading. All my business is done on my website. So if you get any random messages from an account that's like Medium in the Middle with 2 I's or 2 E's or something, it's not me. You can just block and report them. I just had a weekend away in Vancouver. It was so nice. My friend got engaged and she asked me to be a bridesmaid. So it was a really nice trip. And then I am back in Banff, Alberta, where today I woke up to a frozen crystal on my window ledge. And I was like, it's not that cold out here. And then I looked at the temperature and it's minus 25. When did that happen? So it's funny when it gets past minus 25, the inside of my house starts to freeze. So things on my window will start to freeze. My lock on the front door will start to freeze. My back patio door will start to freeze. It's just one of those things. It's cold. So that was really funny. I was like holding my crystal this morning. I'm like, why are you frozen? And I thought I should check the weather. And the weather said minus 25. And I just did a quick conversion for all my American friends because minus 25 is Celsius. So that is approximately minus 13 Fahrenheit. And we can get as cold as minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is so cold your eyelashes freeze. It's not fun for anybody. So I have 2 announcements this week. Announcement number 1 is my business mastermind. The Middler Mastermind is starting next week on February 28th, and it is running for the next 6 months. We will meet once a month. So if you have a spiritual small business, if you have a part-time gig that you want to turn into a full-time gig, as long as you have a business that's making money and you are taking clients regularly, you are welcome to join this mastermind. I have a few more spots available. You can still join before we start next week. I will leave the link down below for that in the show notes. And the other very exciting course that I have to offer is the Advanced Reiki Practitioner course. This is being held live on March 18th from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This is for Reiki Level 2 students who want a little bit more. I find that there's a lot of things that we don't teach in the Reiki Level 2 course that are required if you want to start a Reiki business, work with clients, expand your knowledge and understanding of energy. So I'm going to cram a lot in what I've learned in the past few years working full-time in Reiki into this course. So you have to be a Reiki Level 2 certified to take the Advanced Reiki Practitioner course, but any Reiki Level 2 doesn't have to be mine. It doesn't have to be Usui Reiki. What we're talking about will cover any type of Reiki. If you can't make it live, you also get the replay of that workshop. So I will leave those both linked down below. And I'm going to try out something new and do the card pull at the end of the episode. So let's jump right into your questions. Starting off with a very good energy question. The question is, any advice to not get sick after giving too much energy to others when socializing? Yes, I do have lots of advice for this. Can we guess what I'm going to say? Boundaries, 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 boundaries. Watch how much energy you give to others, because If you are emptying from your cup, then yes, you're going to have to refill your cup. So be very mindful of what you're giving out. Have boundaries to protect how much you're giving out. But there's also things you can do when you are out and socializing. So I try to clear my energy as much as possible when I'm out. For example, if I'm at a restaurant, I always try to sit on the edge of the table. So I'll never be like in the middle of a booth. I never like to be in the middle of two people as much as possible. I try to be on an end so that I'm not soaking in too much energy. I will go and wash my hands often. I will go to the washroom whenever I need a moment to reset. So if the energy is getting overwhelming, if I'm feeling too much, picking up on too much, if I just had a really big conversation with somebody, I will go to the washroom, wash my hands a few times, take a few deep breaths, hide in a stall for a few minutes, just to like recalibrate. So know that when you're out socializing, you probably have to do some of that stuff while you're still out. Then when I come home, I will do all my clearing practices when I arrive home. So again, I always like to wash my hands. I like to have a shower when I get home, no matter what time it is. I sometimes will clear myself with smoke, or I'll do a Reiki energetic clearing. But I want you to think about, number one, boundaries and watching what you give and soak in. So I've said this a million times on the podcast. I always imagine I'm in an eggshell. So in my eggshell, what's inside my egg is mine. Outside of my egg is yours. And I'm not touching your stuff. It's only my stuff. I have a lot of episodes on boundaries that are good to listen to help you with this. Episode 50, episode 70. Just search boundaries and a lot will come up for this podcast. But you really have to be mindful of it. Every single time I go out, I'm thinking about this. Every single time I go to sit down at a restaurant table, I'm thinking about this. And I've gotten pretty good with all of this for like regular scenarios, but I still find I'm super overwhelmed when I go to like a mall and there's people everywhere. I take like 2 to 4 bathroom breaks where I just hide in a stall for a few minutes to recenter, reground, connect with my energy, release anything of all the people around me. So just know that you have to do things for this. It doesn't magically appear. In all my years, I have noticed this is one thing I have to constantly do. I have to constantly be on top of to make sure that you're not giving too much, taking home too much. I always say other people's energy is like suitcases. I'm not holding your suitcase. I'm not taking your suitcase home. I'm only taking my suitcase home. So just being really aware that I'm only taking my suitcase home. Good question. I guess we'll stay in the Reiki boat questions. Next question is, how do you know how to discern energy? What's it feel like and how do you get the skills to refine it? To answer this question in one word, practice. Hours and hours and hours of Reiki. To expand on that, I highly, highly recommend journaling your experiences. So what do I mean by that is I've gotten really, really good at discerning energy and being able to figure out what's yours and what's mine and what's spirits and what's happened to you and how your body's feeling and why, because I've worked with a lot of people's energy. I do this full time, was 6 to 7 days a week, but also I took notes. So my little black book, how this podcast all started, I wrote down the date and just little notes. So like if something happened, like felt pain in the shoulder, ended up being a broken shoulder. My nose was itchy, ended up being this. My left foot felt like it was floating, ended up being connected to her grounding. My left knee was really bothering me, ended up being a left knee injury for them. So you really have to, I know I say this a lot, I'm going to be like a parrot in this episode. You really have to create your own manual. I like to use the analogy that we are like cars and we didn't come with a manual. So we have to figure out every single nook, cranny, itch, swelling, whatever is going on your body. If my knee hurts, your knee hurts, my eyes tear, my left eye tears, my tongue gets itchy, my first finger gets itchy, whatever it is, you have to connect it to what does it mean for you. So what I got really good at is I know that if I walk into a room and then my knees go out, that's not me. That's my client coming in. I know if I'm sitting in my room putting on the sheets and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, grandpa's here. Clearly that's not my grandpa, that's where someone coming in. I know that when I walk in and look at you and I see something on your right hip, I've learned so much about energy on the right hip. I know what that means, but there is no skipping that step. There's no skipping the experience part. There's no skipping the learning and the journaling. You really just have to practice, take notes, and as much as possible in your practice stage before you are full-time taking money for this, get feedback. The practice portion is for feedback. And I'm not talking about like, yeah, that was good, I liked it. No, if you're practicing Reiki on someone or anything, ask for feedback, helpful feedback. What did you like? What didn't you like? A really good question that I like to use for feedback is, what would you like more of? And what would you like less of? Because it's a nice way to have people say what they like and didn't like without being like, I didn't like when you did this. It's like, well, I'd have less of when you were like touching my face, but more of when you were touching my feet. Another thing I would say about this question is to be very aware of your body and their body. So how are they breathing? Are they moving? Are they twitching? Is their stomach rumbling? Is their toes moving? Did they have to readjust their hands? So as much as I'm very aware of my own energy and what I'm doing, I'm also very aware of the client on the table. So I would say practice. Start to journal and start to pay attention to everything that your body is doing and their body is doing, getting as much feedback from them as possible. I will also say this doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time, but you will get better and better and better at it. The journaling part, I can scream it from the rooftops because especially if you're not practicing that often, you might not remember that 3.5 months ago your left eye teared because So when you have these notes, it's like, oh yeah, 3 months ago my left eye did that too. Okay, so twice now this has happened. That's how you do it. So start to create your manual, start to understand how you do Reiki with yourself, how you understand the energy with others, and that will be very, very helpful. But you want to think of it as 2 separate buckets. And this is something we're really going to be talking about in the advanced course because there's so much to learn about energy and how it moves, what it means. But this is a very important skill. And the more that you invest in this, the better you will become. Okay, switching gears, let's jump to a business question. The question is, what do you do to energetically align yourself with your ideal clients? I had a mentee actually ask me this question last week, and I was like, I should do a podcast episode about this. So thank you for asking this question. I have so much to say. Okay, let's start here. What do I do to energetically align myself with my ideal clients? Number 1, I show up fully as myself. So on my website, I am so authentic to me, my personality, how I work. My Instagram is a great representation of who I am. My stories are silly and funny. I make jokes. I'm straight to the point. I show exactly what you're going to get. Anything that comes out of Medium in the Middle, HQ, headquarters, is exactly authentic to who I am and what you're going to get. So if you are attracted to that, you are already my ideal client because you are coming to me and booking with me because you've seen this and you resonate with some aspect of that. So I say the more authentic you can be in showing your personality, how you work. So people know who are coming to me, I'm not very fluffy, I'm not very foo-foo, I tell it how it is, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, I'm going to tell it to you straight, and if you need a little more hand-holding, if you need a little more woo-woo, you're not going to come to me because I'm not your person. This is also why there's room for everybody. If you think about Reiki like shopping in a store, there is a million different types of shirts and sweaters and tops that you can wear, but not everyone's going to like the same style of top. I'm not going to wear a super deep V-cut top if I'm not comfortable with that. If I am comfortable with that, I'm buying that top and putting it on and wearing it out. So you're only going to buy what resonates with you. So that's number 1. I try to be authentic in everything that I put out. Over the years, there's been only a handful of people who have either booked an appointment with me, took a course with me, somehow ended up in front of me, where I was like, I wonder how you slipped through the cracks. I wonder why you thought I was good for you, because it was obviously not a match. But that's happened very, very, very rarely, because if you're coming to work with me, you know exactly what you're getting. The second thing I will say is that all of my marketing is to who I'm speaking to. So I know my ideal client. I've done a lot of work around my branding, who exactly I'm speaking to. So all of my messaging is speaking to her. And then I'm always talking to her. Every post, I'm talking to her. Everything I post on Instagram, I'm always talking to her because that is my ideal client. So I'm constantly talking to her. I could talk about this forever, and these are things that I will talk about in the mastermind, and these are things I talk about with my mentees. But I will say, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. And I know we like to keep things so broad and so open. That's a limiting mindset. I am only talking to Jenny in my marketing. That's it. Just her. So do I get men? Do I work with men? Yes. And they are people who usually fit in that same type of thing. But I'm not talking to everybody. So I really would stress to find your niche, be authentic, and then speak to the people that you want. I'm not speaking to everybody. If you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. That's also why I legitimately love all my clients, because they all are in alignment with who I am, what I'm offering, and the type of person I want to work with. There are so many people where I was like, I would actually be your friend, because they are responding to what I'm putting out. So if I'm being authentic, if you're being authentic, you're going to attract the same type of people to you. That's what I'll say for the pace of this podcast, but I will go so much deeper into this in other offerings that I have. Very good question. I love business questions. Okay, jumping to a spirit question. If you want to speak to spirit yourself, can you speak to them directly, or do you need to see a medium? You can speak to your loved ones directly. Yes, yes, yes. You do not need a medium. I have been saying this for years. You don't need me. Your loved ones are with you. They're not with me. That doesn't make sense. But I know we go to mediums because it's easier and faster to get messages. Yes, we understand things in an easier and faster way. But I find that the average person just doesn't accept the signs and signals that they receive from their loved ones. They don't ask for them, or they're not clear on what they are. So if you ask dad to send you butterflies and then you see 3 butterflies this week and you're like, you come to me and you say, hey, I saw 3 butterflies this week. I asked my dad to send me butterflies. Do you think those butterflies are my dad? And all you need is for me to say yes. But your dad is already with you showing you the butterflies. So we really give out that power to the external validation from a medium, but your loved ones are with you. You don't need to go to a medium to communicate with them. You need to just accept the signs that you already receive, because you are receiving the signs. Yes, we are validating that for you, but they're already with you. I've had some beautiful clients that I've worked with that feel so much more connected to their loved ones after they've passed, because they found that sweet spot. They're like, yeah, I know my daughter's always with me because XYZ. She sends me signs all the time. I constantly hear her on the radio. I constantly find dimes. I constantly, whatever it is, and you feel so connected to them. We go and we pay mediums for that experience because we are feeling like we can't have that on our own. I'm here to tell you, you absolutely can have that on your own, but you have to be really open to it. Ask for signs, look for signs, and then accept the ones that you get. Don't ask for a signy or sign. Don't wait for 8 butterflies before you will really believe it. I have a story that a mentee had yesterday, actually, and she was like trying to make a decision. So this really isn't about spirit, but it's a good example. She's trying to make a decision, and she said, she told her husband in the morning, okay, if I see an eagle today, that means that we're meant to do this. And they were like, okay. So she's like, her and her kids were in the car with her husband. They're driving somewhere, and the kids just happened to be watching a show on their iPad that said, hey, look at that eagle over there. And she looked at her husband and she laughed, and she's like, are you kidding me? She's like, what are the odds that they're watching some show that just said that while we're all in the car? And then she looks out and she saw a bird up in front. She's like, oh, honey, look, what if that's an eagle? Ha ha. And he was like, well, we don't know for sure. And then she's like, and as we got closer to it, it was an eagle. And I thought to myself, is this a sign? And I looked at her and I said, really, you're asking me that right now? And I was like, your kid's iPad literally said the eagle. And then you were driving with your entire family and your husband and you saw the eagle, thought it was an eagle, confirmed it was an eagle. And now you're asking me if the eagle that you asked for in the morning was the double sign of eagles that you got in the afternoon. I said, to me, I would accept that as 2 signs. You got 2 eagles, not just one. You got the one on the iPad and you got the one that you actually saw with your 2 eyes. And your husband was there to see it as well. But as humans, we're always like, we want a signier sign. What if I made that up? What if it's not actually an eagle? What if my kid's iPad didn't really say that? So you really need to accept that, or you're going to be walking around blind for your whole life. And then, yeah, you will have to pay a medium to confirm that for you. But I always say, like, put us out of business. If everybody started to trust their own intuition and their signs, you wouldn't need to pay people like me money to say, yes, that was your eagle sign. So this is me confirming, yet again, your loved ones are with you. They're not with me. Yes, you can connect with them. Ask, and you will receive. Okay, and then the last question for today, going back to another Reiki question. I love it. The question is, what are the different ways in which Reiki recipients can feel energy? I'm new to Reiki Level 2 and curious. Good question. And I say this in all my courses, so I don't think I've actually ever said it on a podcast. We go into Reiki as a practitioner, usually not as someone who's a receiver of Reiki, and we expect fireworks. We expect warmth to come from our hands and fireworks to shoot out our head and dancing leprechauns and unicorns, and the angels will arrive and start to sing, but it is so subtle. So what can people feel? They can feel everything or they can feel nothing. But we don't want to go in with the expectation of fireworks and then there be a little doo-doo-doo. So a normal thing that they can feel warm, they can feel cold, they can feel relaxed, they can fall asleep, they can have movement in their belly, they can get burpy, they can kind of feel energy moving through their body like electricity, they can feel like they have to jolt or move. But for the most part, most people will just feel relaxed. Exactly like you're getting a massage, even though we're not massaging your body, you'll have that feeling of relaxation, calmness. You might not feel much physically, but you will feel instantly relaxed. And as the practitioner, it's your job to set the expectations. So you want people to know that they just can relax. They'll probably feel like they had a massage, but you don't want them to set them up expecting fireworks, because then they think they're doing something wrong if they don't feel fireworks. They maybe think you're doing something wrong because you're not setting off the fireworks. Then you think you're doing something wrong because there are no fireworks. Why aren't the angels singing today? Where are the dancing leprechauns? We just really need to be mindful of what it actually feels like. So warmth, tingling, coldness, relaxation. It's usually very, very subtle. Your eyes can move. You can have to clear your throat. Energy is movement, right? So any way that energy is moving through the body, it's very normal for people to have their belly rumbling, for things to feel like they're moving, to have to go to the bathroom right after. So all of those things are signs of energy movement, and all of those things can be felt during a Reiki session. So you always want to let people know they can feel something, they can feel nothing. Everything is normal. There's no expectations. They just need to relax, and anything that they do experience is normal. So you want them to feel like their tummy rumbling. They might be a little embarrassed. You're like, no, that's good. That's energy moving. So thank you for your questions. I like to do that sometimes on Instagram. I will post a Q&A and just see where the audience is at, see what you're interested in hearing about. I love to answer these questions. I've been doing it since the start of this podcast. Originally, it was because I ran out of ideas and I was like, what should I do? I should ask Q&As. Now I just really, really like them. So I throw them in whenever I can. We're going to end with a card. So this week I decided to pull from the Kyle Gray Angel Guide Oracle book, and I pulled the card Opportunity and Change. I don't think I've ever pulled this card before. I love that. I love having a deck forever and not pulling every single card. So the card reads, as one door closes, another one opens. This is a time for change. Your angels are drawing close to support you in making the changes that you need to make to attract opportunities and abundance. You may have experienced resistance recently or felt stuck, but the new beginnings you are seeking are unfolding now. If you are hesitating over a decision or wondering what to do about a particular project, your angels are encouraging you to go with the new. Change might bring a sense of vulnerability or present you with the unknown, but it will allow you to make a deeper connection to your feelings and gifts and what's important to you. Your guardian angel is waiting to guide you through the doorway of opportunity that's being offered to you now. Ooh, I like this. I'm going to read the extended message too. You're in a time of change and opportunity. Whether this involves a new role, career opportunity, relationship, child, or project, know that it's blessed by the universe and angels. This is an exciting time, and if you have apprehension, know that this card is reassuring you that you are being supported. If you ask angels to lead the way, you will be guided by signs, intuition, and instinct. Move forward fearlessly, as this is a blessed time for you. Ooh, interesting. I like that card. I like that card a lot. As always, I post the card on my Instagram at Medium in the Middle if you want to see it. But that is all from me this week. If you need any of the links of anything I discussed at the start of this episode to register for the Middler Mastermind and join the 6-month business container, grow your business, or if you want to register for the Advanced Reiki Level 2 course, I will leave all those linked down below in the show notes. More Reiki trainings will be coming for May. And I will also leave all the links down to my socials so you can follow my real account and not any of the scam accounts. If you haven't already, I would love and appreciate a rating and a review. It really helps me out in the podcast world to grow this podcast. But until next Wednesday, Middlers, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, everybody.